Welcome to the Crunch McDabble Show. I'm your host, Crunch McDabbles. This is the only show where we break down my new favorite Pathfinder 2nd Edition class, the Summoner. The Summoner is just a regular, ordinary guy that has this connection to an otherworldly creature called an eidolon. And that connection turns this guy into the strongest, most unkillable class in all of Pathfinder. To begin with, the Summoner has the ability to manifest the eidolon into the world, and the eidolon is physically powerful and can fight for him. It's pretty straightforward, but it turns out having a beefy fighter friend that wants to jump in the fray and mix it up on your behalf is a pretty valuable commodity in Pathfinder 2nd Edition. No matter which eidolon you choose, just like Michael Jackson, this guy has all the hits. He's got the coveted martial weapon proficiency. He has a maxed out strength or dexterity to go along with it. He even gets a +2 to an ability score at 17th level to give him the same effect as an Apex item, all without the cost. He also has 2 great unarmed attacks that are the equivalent of 2 one-handed martial weapons. This guy is a legit frontline killer in every sense. Defensively, the eidolon is good as well. They have an armor proficiency progression that is in this tweener group up here with the Ranger, Inventor, and Thaumaturge, and while they are technically considered unarmored, they have this +1 or +2 item bonus to armor class, which gives them the equivalent of wearing a good set of light armor like a chain shirt, studded leather, or leather armor. While the attack bonus and defense are comparable to other martials, the overall damage output on the eidolon might be a little behind the other martial classes. Instead of class abilities, the eidolon gets 3 natural abilities automatically at level 1, level 7, and level 17. There are some nice flavorful boosts in there and bonuses related to what kind of eidolon they are, and there are even some nice attacks and some small amounts of type damage in there, but there's no substantial increases to damage. And the Summoner can use their class feats to improve the eidolon as well. These evolution feats give your eidolon monster abilities. You can find descriptions for most of them here in the bestiary. The eidolon stat block looks more like something from the monster manual than from the player's handbook. And while there are a dizzying amount of possibilities with these abilities, there just isn't a lot of damage. Fortunately, the eidolon is more than just a beefy friend at your side. The eidolon is an otherworldly entity, and the Summoner's connection to them is what gives the Summoner their spellcasting. Getting spellcasting in this way is both powerful and limited at the same time. It's powerful because the Summoner can cast max level spells just like all the other casters. Whatever the greatest spell on their spell list is, at any given time, the Summoner can cast it. And being able to cast max level spells is an incredibly powerful ability, never to be taken lightly. The eidolon also gives a Summoner the ability to cast link focus spells. This is interesting. Indulge me for a moment. The eidolon is giving the Summoner the ability to cast spells, and then the Summoner casts those spells, but then the spells go right back and buff the eidolon. It's with the Summoner, you're always kind of wondering who's really in charge, and that little thing right there kind of complicates the picture, but I like that. I'll let you cast spells, right? But then you have to cast spells that buff me. I don't know, I like that. In any case, focus spells are always nice because you can refocus and use them over and over throughout the day. Additionally, this is one of those classes that has focus cantrips that you can use at will without refocusing. All of this is powerful spellcasting. While having the ability to cast max level spells and having focus spells, that's a powerful ability. Getting spellcasting from an eidolon does have some limitations compared to other spellcasters. To begin with, they just get 2 max level spells per level, while most other casters get 3, and the sorcerer even gets 4 max level spells. So in terms of these max level bombs that each caster can cast, the Summoner is slightly behind most of the other casting classes. Still, given the power of these spells, I can live with this. Slightly worse, though, as the Summoner gains new spell levels, they lose the old ones. So what happens is, unlike other casters who amass vast quantities of low-level spell slots as they level, the Summoner flatlines down here with just 4 spell slots at any given time. And there is also a slight dip in spell DC for about a quarter of the levels as well. At level 7 and 8, level 15 and 16, and level 19 and 20, the summoner is 2 behind traditional casters. This puts them, in terms of DCs, in between an archetype caster and a traditional caster. On the bright side, at least they aren't as bad as war priests. So what you end up with here when you play the summoner class is you have a martial and a spellcaster in one. The real power of the summoner then is the way these two characters function as one. The summoner and the eidolon are two characters with two distinct bodies and two distinct minds, but they share a life force. They're linked together telepathically, and they function in perfect unison to the point where they function as one player. From a gameplay perspective, this is great. You are one player at the table that controls two different characters, a summoner and an eidolon, but you play them as one player. You make decisions for them as one player. You have 3 actions and 1 reaction each round, and you spend them on either character however you see fit. Because you are 2 players, you have a shared life force. This means you only track 1 hit point pool. If the eidolon gets hit, you both take damage. If the summoner gets hit, you both take damage. But having the life force of 2 characters means the summoner has a lot of life. They get a D10 hit points per level, which puts them up here with the beefcakes like the fighter and the champion. Yeah. While the hit points are nice, there is a disadvantage to being 2 characters on the battlefield. You're twice as likely to get targeted by enemy attacks and twice as likely to get hit by area of effect spells. While you will only take the damage one time, you'll always take the higher amount. You're essentially rolling twice and taking the worst result. However, at level 10, with the feat Protective Bond, you can take the lesser amount, albeit at the cost of a reaction and a 10th level feat. Being 2 characters that function as one results in the summoner's strongest class ability, Act Together. This lets the summoner or eidolon use a 1 or 2 or 3 action activity, and the other gets a single action. This ability essentially gives the summoner and eidolon 4 actions each round, and you get that right at first level. Now, there is a little bit of a finesse required with this because this extra action can't be combined with other actions. No! What this means is there are only 3 possible scenarios for these Act Together actions. Option number 1. You use a single action as part of Act Together, and you get an extra single action from that, and that leaves 2 actions left over for the round. Now, you could combine those 2 actions into a 2-action activity, but then that works out the exact same as option number 2. Option number 2. You use a 2-action activity for Act Together, you get the extra single action, and you have 1 action left over in the round. And finally, option number 3, you use a 3-action activity as part of Act Together, you get a single action from that, and you have no actions left over. What this little graphic here shows us, first, these 3 Act Together options always involve both the eidolon and the summoner using actions. The only way to get that extra action is if both of them act in the round. This means you can't have the eidolon just attack 4 times in a round. In order to take advantage of the extra action, both characters need to get involved. Second, even though you have 4 actions, there's no way to make 2 2-action activities. For example, you can't cast a spell and have the eidolon make a 2-action attack. You just can't do it. There's no scenario where that's possible. And this leads us to the final observation. See all those single actions all over the place? See that? That means we need to get really good at using single actions to get the most out of this class. Now, there are a couple other benefits to being 2 characters that function as one player. I'll call these the beneficial quirks of the class. Here's one. You're the only character that can get hit points from battle medicine twice a day. I guess without a medic in the party. The summoner can use battle medicine on themselves, and then the summoner can use battle medicine on the eidolon. 2 different characters, thus allowable, yet it goes to the same hit point pool. And another one, the summoner could use the Intimidate skill to demoralize an enemy, and while that enemy would then be immune to the summoner's demoralize attempts for 10 minutes, there is no reason your eidolon couldn't then intimidate them. You share skills, so this is definitely an option. And finally, you could use the aid action to prepare a reaction for your eidolon's attack, or vice versa, and then immediately use the reaction to get that coveted status bonus to the attack roll. Putting this all together, the summoner is the perfect blend of magic and martial. You have a decent martial, and you have decent casting. At least decent in terms of what other classes can do. In other words, a barbarian or fighter is going to outdamage your eidolon, and a wizard is going to outcast your summoner. But the real strength of the summoner class, then, is having both of these together in one class, and then combining those elements to work together and make the whole greater than the two parts. When done effectively, it can make you leaps and bounds stronger than all those other classes. Now, magic and martial lends itself perfectly to a smash and cast type of build. Your eidolon smashes something, and you follow it up with a damage spell. If you use a cantrip with a saving throw, this is going to work pretty good, round in and round out. And then, when you need the big guns, drop a spell slot damage spell. For example, you could drop a 3-action magic missile for all that auto damage with 3 missiles, and then as part of Act Together, have the eidolon follow it up with their good strike. Something like that is better than a spell strike, and you can do that right at first level. Another concept that could be used is buff spells and make a buff and beatdown build. In this case, you use your spells to throw out nasty buff spells on your eidolon and let them take care of business. These buffs could be offensive for more damage, or defensive for more survivability, or a combination of both for some balance. The summoner link cantrips are perfect for this. You could use Boost Eidolon as a single action each round to add a status bonus to the eidolon's damage, or you could take the second level feat Reinforce Eidolon for that coveted status bonus to armor class and a small amount of resistance to all damage. Now, it says you can't have both of these out at the same time. However, we reject this here. Remember how we said this class needs to get good at using single actions? This is a perfect example of that. Cast Boost Eidolon at the start of your turn and take advantage of the status bonus to damage while you're attacking, and then cast Reinforce Eidolon at the end of your turn and take advantage of the defense the rest of the round. Another useful single action defensive spell is Protect Companion. This cantrip is on all the spell lists. It's kind of like a shield spell that the summoner can cast on the eidolon. It gives the same +1 circumstance bonus to armor class and has a reaction that mitigates the same amount of damage as a shield spell, which is nice. That's a lot. The difference is there is this little buffer in here before it kicks in. Long story short, you have to use the reaction against larger damage spikes to get the full effect, which is good because that is when you want the damage mitigation anyways. Finally, we need to talk about summoning spells. This is the summoner after all. There are summoning spells on each of the spell lists, and the summoner has class feats that can increase the number of max level summoning spells and give them the ability to heighten summoning spells to 10th level, which means this is at least an intended design option. And the design option looks like if you take these feats, you look more like a regular caster. You can have 3 max level spells, and you kind of have 10th level spells, right? That means you take the seat at the adult casting table instead of being down here at the kiddie table with the war priest. The problem is summoning spells are controversial. Summoning spells have a reputation for being not that good, and that's because they're not that good. You are summoning monsters that are 4 levels lower than you, which means they have attack bonuses and DCs and armor classes and even skills that are 4 or more behind where they should be. As an example, here is a typical martial class attack bonus. You can see the level, proficiency, ability, and item bonuses all combined there. Then here is a rough average of an attack bonus for something you could summon at the same level. It's 3 or 4 or 5 or even 7 points behind your martial classes. And what happens, unfortunately, is if a monster isn't a threat on the battlefield, things just ignore them. Why would you attack something that can't really hurt you when there are other things out there that are trying to kill you? And if they are being ignored, then they aren't even going to take a hit or two for you. You just wasted 3 actions and a spell slot. Now, it's not all bad, right? There is some wisdom to this idea that they are better against lower level creatures and against groups of enemies, which are usually lower level. So you might get away with using summoning spells sometimes, just not in boss fights. Another idea for a summoning spell build, and I only mention this because it's hilarious, summon a monster and then use your other spell slot to final sacrifice it. Now look at this. This turns your summoned monster into a fireball spell at second level. That means this spell does require a summoned monster first, which is going to cost you 3 actions. But the explosion from final sacrifice is actually stronger than a fireball. That is some potent magic. I suppose you could keep scrolls of final sacrifice on hand and then use your spell slots for summon monster, because you can get the extra spell slot each level. Add ostentatious arrival into this, and you're getting summon monsters that are going boom, boom. And that ends the discussion on the summoner. I think it's a strong class. I think it's a fun martial to play with an interesting spellcasting twist that results in some amazing defense. And that is it. I've been your host, Crunch McDabbles. This has been the Crunch McDabble Show. Survive Galarian with the Summoner. Okay, I'm glad you're still here. There has long been a legend about the Summoner, whispers, if you will, about an unkillable Summoner build. It's not the thing you talk about in polite company. That's why I put it here at the end. Unkillable builds, they're of no concern to modern D&D groups, where everything is balanced and everybody is smiling and their characters are always talking in whimsical British accents. That dragon bit my bottom. Some of us travel in seedier company, playing Dungeons and Dragons games that take place in smoke-filled speakeasies. And even there, when we talk about things like unkillable builds, it's best to keep your voice down about it. Now, maybe you want this power. If you want to build the unkillable summoner build, follow these instructions to the letter and don't tell anybody where you heard about it. And I'm serious, tell no one. Step 1, take an eidolon that has the divine spell list. This could be an angel, a demon, a psychopomp, or an undead eidolon. We need the divine spell list because we're going to be using the summon celestial spell. Step 2, make sure your alignment is true neutral, neutral good, lawful neutral, or lawful good, somewhere in these 4 boxes. Summon celestial has this requirement that since we don't have a deity class feature like a cleric or champion, we need to be within 1 step of the things we want to summon. The things we want to summon are generally lawful good and neutral good, because it's all about these angels and archons. And that's it. At level 9, we can start summoning celestials with this True Strike spell. Instead of making 2 bad attacks, they can roll twice and take the higher result, which works out to a +3 or +4 difference, which puts them back on track. Well, a little closer to on track anyways. The idea is that we can get a hit once in a while. They will attract attention of the enemies and maybe get the enemies to waste attacks on them. Maybe, not necessarily. The thing is, it doesn't even matter because we're going to force the enemies to attack our summoned monsters. Watch this. At level 9, the Horned Archon has the Touch of Charity ability. As a single action, it can transfer up to 30 hit points of its own life to another character. And that is a tremendous amount of healing for a single action. It's basically a lay on hands from a 9th level champion. But remember, you summoned this guy. He's supposed to be 4 levels lower. And yet this ability is working like an at-level champion ability. And he can do that twice. And when he dies, you just summon another one, or final sacrifice him, or whatever, your choice. Even better, once we hit 15th level, we can summon a Shield Archon. Have them immediately cast the Shield Other spell on the Eidolon. For the next 250 points of damage that you take from all effects that deal hit point damage, you're going to take half damage. That is enormously powerful. To put this in perspective, let's say an ancient blue dragon descends and lands in front of you. This is a 1,000-year-old killing machine. It unloads everything it's got on you in a draconic frenzy. Now, just for the sake of argument, let's not mess around with armor class. Let's just say every one of those attacks critically hits. The first claw slashes in, critical hit. The second claw rips into you, critical hit. It smashes you with its razor-sharp horns, and then it finishes you off with a bite attack, rippling with electricity. Critical hit. Critical hit. The Dungeon Master snickers to himself behind his little Dungeon Master screen, rolling fistful of D10s and calculating the damage on a small notepad. And this thing delivers. It's a cool 263 points of piercing, slashing, and electricity damage. That's enough damage to knock every single 15th level character to dying 2. But guess what? The dust settles, and you're still standing. Shield Archon's dead, but you're still standing. Even better, when you are 17th level and you have that 16th level feat effortless concentration, which all of a sudden looks like an amazing feat for this build. On the first round, you can summon that Shield Archon with your 8th level spell slot. Then since you can sustain that spell as a free action, now you can summon a Gaily with your 9th level spell slot. The Gaily has a 7th level heal spell and 4 4th level heal spells for close to 300 healing in 5 rounds, plus a restoration spell heightened to 4th level. For a single action each round, you can get a heal, have a creature provide flanks, get true strike attacks, and the whole time you're taking half damage. Then, final sacrifice them both. That, my friends, is how you survive Galarian. And that truly is it. I've been your host, Crunch McDabbles. This has been the Crunch McDabbles Show. Survive Galarian the least expected way possible with the Divine Spell list, and of course with the final sacrifice spell. To begin with, they just get 2 max level spells per level, while most other casters get 3, and the sorcerer even gets 4 max level spells. So in terms of these max level bombs that you can drop, the caster... So in terms of these max level bombs that each caster can cast, the summoner is slightly behind most of the other casting classes. So in terms of these max level bombs that each caster can cast, the summoner is slightly behind most of the other casting classes. Still, given the power of these spells, I can live with this. I just can't say it. First, you share the same actions, which means you just have 3 actions and 1 reaction for 2 characters. To put this in perspective, just think about a situation where your party has to run away in an encounter, while everyone else is spending 3 stride actions just running away in a straight line. You and the eidolon are deciding which one of you is going to stride once, and which one of you is going to stride twice. So how do you think that's going to work out? That's enough damage to outright kill about half the classes with massive hit point damage. That's not true. I forgot to change that.